It's the middle of July, and this episode is a permission slip. Last week, Adina introduced us to trauma, big T, little t, and what it actually does to your nervous system. Well, in this episode, Elif is here to tell you that the thing you might have been denying yourself, teas, lotions, specific biscuits that you stuff into your suitcase every time you go home, well, it's literally therapy. So before we start, hit subscribe. I'm serious. The anxiety of potentially missing a future episode, that is dysregulation. So don't do that to yourself. Just one tap. You're welcome. Okay, let's go. It's July, and if you're anything like me, something shifts this month. Our school bags are packed away, our diaries are having to be emptied, and suddenly, after months of keeping everything always moving, there's space. There's space to breathe, space to notice. And this July, we're all somewhere different. Some of us are heading back to the country we left, to the family we don't see enough of, to the kitchen that smells exactly the way it should. Some of us are doing something we've always talked about but never quite managed, taking the kids somewhere completely new, a country we've always wanted them to experience, a place we've been carrying around in our imagination for years. And some of us are staying right here, in the Netherlands, discovering what this country actually looks like in summer. The beaches, the forests, and the wide open national parks. The cities, especially, when they get a little quieter and a little more golden, and suddenly, somehow, they feel like yours. However you're spending it, July has a way of stirring something up, of making the gap between here and home feel both smaller and larger at the same time, of reminding you of who you are when you're not just managing everything. And so this feels like the exact moment to bring you this conversation. I want to introduce you to someone I've been looking forward to talking to for a while. Elif Durgel is a psychologist based in Eindhoven, and she's the founder of Roots and Wings Academy, which works with international families navigating life between cultures. She posted something on Instagram a while back about a hand lotion, just a hand lotion. And something about it resonated because she wasn't actually writing about the product. She was writing about what it did to her, how it reached into her chest and put something back in its place. And I know that feeling. My version is tea, Barry's tea to be precise. It's Irish and it's strong and it's the kind that leaves a ring on all the mugs. And I make it and sometimes something in me settles. Something that has been slightly braced or slightly holding. Just let's go. So today I want to talk about what that actually is because it's not nostalgia. It is not weakness. It is not you being soft or sentimental or not quite adjusted enough. It is your nervous system reaching for something it knows. And now in July, when so many of us are either heading home or arriving somewhere new, or just discovering that staying put in this country can feel unexpectedly grounding, understanding that matters more than we give it credit for. So Elif, welcome to the Damn Parenting Podcast.
Hi, Eva.
I'd love to start first off by telling us about that Instagram post. What happened and why did you feel like you needed to share that?
Yeah, so that Instagram post was about a moisturizer, particular moisturizer. Its name is actually Istanbul. It's by this atelier. And I use this moisturizer actually not to moisturize my hands. Well, I do it for that, but it's really a psychological tool for me to sort of end the day, calm myself down. I put it on my hands and I really smell it because it has a particular scent that takes me back to home. I feel connected to my roots, my family. In fact, I have specific memories of using this moisturizer. We were on holidays with my parents and I was using this lotion on that particular trip. So I remember that holiday, the beautiful time I spent with my family. And it really makes a huge and positive difference in my life when I do it.
Can you actually tell us what's actually happening when a smell does that? Like, why does it seem to hit faster and deeper than, say, like seeing a photo from home or maybe hearing a song?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, yes, I spent weeks searching where I can find this particular hand lotion here in the Netherlands. So it is really intentional and effortful practice. It has a lot to do with our memory and in general limbic system. So obviously the things that we see are the sensory experiences are processed in our brain and they are linked with certain memories, right? We remember things about them. Now, biologically, with other senses other than smelling, it's not a direct way to memory and emotions. What happens is when you see something or when you hear a music, that input, that sensory input, first goes to the thalamus. Then it's there processed. It's sort of understood what it is, what this input is. And then it's taken to memory or emotions or whatever it is that you want to do with that input, right? There's something very, very specific about smell. What happens when we smell something is that at the back of our nose, there is a space called olfactory bulb. So that's the first thing that receives the odor, the smell. And that olfactory bulb is directly connected with memory, so our hippocampus, and our center of emotions, which is amygdala. So it doesn't go through thalamus or other brain parts. There is a direct highway from smell, from our nose, to our brain centers that are directly linked with emotions and our autobiographical memories. So the memories that we have, and particularly childhood memories, right? So it's a very straightforward relationship and very strong and a very emotional relationship too.
So since we're talking about the back of the nose, since the nose and the mouth are open, does that then equal with taste?
Yes. Yes. Taste has a similar root to emotions and memories. And that is mainly also explained by the fact that most of the things that we eat has some kind of flavor and smell associated with it as well. So that's again through olfactory bulb that gets those emotions or memories are getting triggered by the things we eat or by the things we smell. Yeah.
So I'm intrigued that you said there that it's really linked as well to childhood memories. So is it in the crystallized memory that we have it linked to, or how does that work?
Yes. So the autobiographical memory, the memories that we have about ourselves, so the experiences that we went through, that's basically when we call, my identity, who I am. That's really our autobiographical memories, what makes me kind of a thing. So there are some factual memories in there. For example, the name of your kindergarten teacher is also there. Which may or may not be so emotional as such. But there are also very specific memories, like your 5th birthday party, and you remember exactly what the cake tasted like. You remember exactly the perfume your mom smelled when she hugged you. So those things are part of those autobiographical memories, and they are actually really core to, who we are.
Moving this a little bit forward, you talk about the nervous system a lot in your work. So for someone who's never really thought about it in this way, can you explain what it feels like to have something like a scent or a food with regulation of the body in itself? Like, what does it feel like, or how does that work?
Yeah, for our nervous system has basically two main aspects, let's say. So there is parasympathetic nervous system and there is the sympathetic nervous system, right? So the sympathetic nervous system is more active. It's the high arousal. It's quick. It's often like when we're afraid of something, the fight or flight kind of a reaction that we might give. So that's sympathetic. That gets us going, right? Doing something. It activates us. And there's the parasympathetic nervous system, which is sort of more slower. It calms us. It's more related to rest, right? And they go hand in hand. And often when one is activated, the other one is sort of taking a toll and gives space to the other one. Now, of course, what we want is particularly when we're stressed or when we're feeling particularly anxious, maybe nervous, it helps these kind of stimuli like scent, a particular scent that gives us a positive feeling, makes us remember a positive memory or triggers the positive things about how we define ourselves, that who we are, that identity components of us actually directly gets connected to the parasympathetic nervous system. So the part that calms us down, because that's limbic system. And all that, the earlier anatomical structure that I described with amygdala and hippocampus, that's also part of limbic system. So they're all actually connected with one another. So how effective, I mean, by just smelling something, can we really immediately, calm down? And that is the solution to, let's say, if you feel anxious. It depends. It could be, but it may not be that strong. But that's also something we can actually slowly build up and teach ourselves as well, because these are the things that we can learn and we can teach. We can make our body actually understand how to connect with ourselves and how to be more present, right? There are a lot of all these mindfulness or grounding practices that we suggest and practice. So they're all actually come in play here. They're all relevant here.
So, can I ask, are you saying that eating is parasympathetically calming us down and regulating us? Is that's why some of us will be eating late at night just to calm ourselves down after a stressful day?
Well, I went to last night when I was doing that in front of fridge, so that's why I'm laughing. Partly, yes, of course. I mean, partly, not always, but it really also depends on, for this topic, it depends on what kind of food you choose. I mean, we could really be intentional in choosing the kind of foods that really help us remember a positive thing, or help us connect with our roots, help us connect with what makes us us, help us connect with what life means, what is the meaning of my life. So all these more meta, more bigger things, it's food or a smell. It's not a meaningless thing. It matters. Yeah.
When you talk there about having the sense of your childhood, like you were talking about the cake you might have eaten or your mother's perfume or what have you, it does make me like it triggers in me. For example, in June every single year, they cut the grass in my school when I was in a teenager year. And every time I smell freshly cut grass, it brings me straight back there. It's not a good smell. I mean, the smell of grass is a good smell, but it triggers a bad kind of vibe of like it's exam time, basically, is the vibe. So is it always meant to be positive, or can it also be triggering negative emotion as well?
Yes, it can also trigger negative emotions. Absolutely. That really depends on what our earlier experiences with that smell was. So how that memory is coded, that's what it sort of stays in our brain, right? So it could also be actually for everybody. I don't know. For example, vanilla is known to be a very positive smell for pretty much everybody, but I don't like it, right? Because of some previous experiences that I had. Like my earliest memories of vanilla was not nice, right? So similar to, so it doesn't have to bring positive emotions, positive memories as such. But research shows that more often those kind of smells, they make us remember more of the positive memories. But if it is a negative thing, what can we do?
True.
Because we can also work on that, Eva. I mean, our brain, there's this concept of neuroplasticity. It is flexible. We can work on our brain. Our brain can work on itself, and we can rewrite certain things. We can work on how we associated things in the past and how we want them to be associated now. So it's not the end of the story, if it brings up something negative. But then if you want to go through that path, then we need to be actually quite gentle and, work with it in a careful way. Yeah.
So I think this is a great setting for the summer vibe here, is that people, when they're enjoying themselves or having a wonderful holiday, to try and get something that is to remind them, to give them that trigger, I guess, for moving forward, that they will always remember that moment in a positive way.
Yes, and also particularly for expat migrant families who might be going back to their home countries, wherever they are, or visiting their families. This is a great opportunity to create those memories for your kids. Actually investing time in, baking that cake or cooking that particular thing, or going and smelling that, I don't know, fish market, which probably isn't a typical nice smell. But for example, I grew up in a very tiny fishing town. So for me, the smell of fish is amazing, So similar to your grass example, it can be totally unexpected associations, but yeah, why not?
This is in July right now. So some people are on their way back to their home country. So there might be this anticipation, maybe some preemptive grief already about leaving again and coming back to the Netherlands. Some might be in the middle of a brand new adventure where they've never gone, or maybe they've never taken the kids. And as I said, some might also stay in the Netherlands, exploring the parts of the country that they might finally actually be getting around to doing. What does July stir up, like psychologically, for people living between cultures, however they're spending it?
Yes, that's a very good question. At all these experiences, so even if you go visit or not, or you go somewhere else, and just the fact that like you live here or elsewhere in a place where you didn't grow up or you migrated, you moved. Every move, every separation is in a way a loss. So so going back home, visiting your family is a positive thing, but it immediately also carries, well, one, leaving your home that you built in the Netherlands, even temporarily, but the fact that you will be leaving your family again. So it is emotionally quite loaded. Those are particularly the times when you need these kind of grounding practices, cultural grounding practices, in fact, like the things that help you get connected with your culture. But also some of us perhaps also want to keep some distance or, have some boundaries. It's a complex thing, right? Like your relationship with your family or your home culture or your hometown has all sorts of different layers. So, what works for you and what helps you, realizing that, working on that, and putting active effort in bringing that to your own attention, particularly if things are getting too complicated or too heavy. These kind of small practices can actually really add up.
Talking about adding up, something I did want to say is sometimes many of us don't actually let ourselves have these things. We're not going to buy that lotion because it's a lot more expensive. Or for myself, like buying the tea in the expat shop is a lot more than it would be back home. And I stuff my bags when I'm coming back from Ireland with all the food and drinks that I miss from there. We tell ourselves that it's too much fuss or we've been here long enough that we shouldn't really need it. Can you explain like what's behind that, do you think? Is it about wanting to prove like we're okay? Or is there something about grief, about what it means to admit the distance?
Yeah, this reminded me of I'm running a book club, particularly we're focusing on books that are related to psychology and immigration. And I recently read a book by Jhumpa Lahiri, which is called Whereabouts. And there, the main character, a woman, walks into a pharmacy and wants to buy a moisturizer. But then she thinks, oh, do I really need it? I actually have a moisturizer. I mean, this one is really what like I love, and I love the smell, and I know I want it. But you know what? And she sort of convinces herself not to buy it. And instead, she buys paracetamol because it will always be helpful. I mean, you will need paracetamol at some point in your life. So she buys that and leaves the pharmacy. So we do that, right? Like sometimes exactly that tea, this is really, I know it will make me feel something when I drink it, but I'm not going to buy it. And it could be really more practical things. It could even be financial things. It could be deeper things, our belief systems, the kind of beliefs that we grew up with or we learned maybe even unconsciously. Could be also financial, like you buy things that are beneficial and beneficial in the material or concrete sense. But it could also be how we define, for example, strengths, how we define vulnerability. And not everybody feels grief in the same way. Some of us are more avoidant, some of us try actually not to do anything about it. Some of us are more inclined to work with it or hear our inner workings. So we all, deal with these complex issues in various ways. But I would really suggest, as I said, if something helps you, if it means these kind of cultural grounding practices are really beneficial. So go ahead and do it. Buy that tea and buy that moisturizer.
I love it. So, if there's ever a time to give yourself permission to go to the expat shop, I guess, or duty free if you're flying out back home, or just to bring something back from your holidays, I guess, this summer, or just even sit somewhere new and just breathe it all in without apologizing for needing it, I guess it's now, it's the summer holidays. Is that what you'd say to someone who's been quietly denying themselves that thing that they miss to make them feel okay? Because technically, it's not retail therapy, but it kind of is.
Well, it's not buying things. Of course, there's a dopamine, there's a reward system. Hey, something new, it's a new thing to explore. And just that reward system, sure. I mean, it will feel good, but is it therapeutic as such? Not really. Does it do something to your nervous system? Not really. I mean, so it's a more temporary thing, which doesn't have the kind of positive relationships or outcomes that we're actually talking about here. What we're here talking about is really being intentional in terms of what you buy and what you bring, and making sure that that's something that actually connects you. So, for example, nostalgic or this kind of autobiographical memories that we remember, especially if they're more positive, they do really have positive psychological outcomes. So more, for example, increased well-being, increased self-esteem, because you kind of remember, as I said, like, who am I? Who was I? Who was I before coming here? What was my strength, or what held me, what protected me? I don't know if it's a memory about family where you felt that safety, that sort of signals you something, right? That's my strength. I still have that somewhere in me. It triggers deeper social connections. You remember those things. So those are all positive things that we're actually targeting. For example, if it's an immigrant, why did I move here again, right? So I don't know, buying a new dress may not do that. But when you drink that tea, and you remember a particular memory, you're thinking of that moment, you're thinking what family means to you, you're thinking what that particular family member gave to you emotionally, right? So remembering those things also help you remember who you are, why you moved, why are you doing this, what do you want to give to your child? So all those things actually go through your mind, and involuntarily as well. So this is not like you sit down and purposefully try to remember that one particular memory. It just comes to you. So that's basically what we're sort of hoping to target, right?
So it's not the retail therapy that we all know and love and say, we'll just buy it for the dopamine hit, but it's a therapy in itself, and the fact that it's giving you all of this instantaneously, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so for anyone listening right now, if they're heading off, if they're staying here, what is one thing you'd want them to do today or during their holidays? Give them a small permission slip, I guess.
For the adults, see this as something that you do for yourself. There's a lot of, again, like this me time on the concept, which is super important, but sometimes it's a shower that you take, like it turns into a me time. This is a sound practice that we want to incorporate in our lives more. And these are small things, particularly if you think about our modern lifestyle where we're running from one thing to another and our agendas are full. This is a quick thing that you can do, and you can do regularly. A smell, a particular food that you cook, a particular spice that you use. And maybe you don't use it every day, but once a week on that weekend, or once a month, you cook that thing. Or when you go back home, you eat that. Like you actually tell, your family, you actually tell your grandma, can you make that for me? Because I want to remember that, or I want to bring that spice with me back home, right? Because it is really valuable psychologically. But the other thing is, if you're a parent, also invest your time and effort to build those memories, even if you're not visiting home, even if you're not going back to visit the family, creating these kind of memories, knowing that, especially if you do it regularly, and by regularly, I don't mean every day, by the way, it could be once a year thing. I mean, we all have this Christmas memories, and it happens once a year, but it's a regular thing, right? So invest in that as well. Like actually think about, what do you want your child to remember? Right? Remember about your culture, remember about your spices, remember about your family culture. Culture is not just the country culture, but it's also your family culture that you can carry everywhere with you, with your family. So go ahead and actually think about, what are those scents or flavors, or maybe songs. So, it's the sensory inputs that make you feel connected, make you feel alive, make you feel aroused in a positive way, or calm down, or feel more present. and then be intentional about them.
Well, Elif, thank you so much. I'm actually off to make a cup of tea for myself, and I'm going to enjoy every single second of it. Thank you so much for joining us on Damn Parenting.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
So here's what I want you to take away from today. Whatever you've been telling yourself is indulgent, the tea, the lotion, the things that you stuff into your suitcase, it's not retail therapy. It's your nervous system reaching back to something that tells you you're safe, you're connected, and you know who you are. And that's a practice. Let yourself have it. You can find Elif at Roots and Wings Academy. Everything will be in the show notes. And come tell me on Instagram at Damn Parenting Podcast. What's yours? What's the smell or the taste or the thing that takes you home in under a second? I have a feeling we could build quite a list this summer. Until next time, and you're doing better than you think.